As I entered my parents' home, the familiar scent of lavender cleaner mingled with the once comforting, now constricting atmosphere of family expectations. It was the holiday gathering, a ritual that came with the seasons, a sort of family reunion where honesty was unwelcome, and silence reigned over the true emotions lurking just beneath the surface. I could already sense it, the heaviness in the air, the underlying current of tension that made my stomach churn. In the corner of the living room, my father sat, a ghost of his former self. His eyes, usually so full of warmth and laughter, were glassy and distant. I had often described my father as a lighthouse in my life, but lately he felt more like a ship lost at sea, adrift in a storm of his unvoiced sadness. My heart sank as a torrent of guilt surged through me. Here I was, thriving in my career as a freelance writer, but the sight of my father's slumped shoulders made me feel like a child again, obligated to mend the pain of those I loved. "Is everything okay, Dad?" I found myself asking. But the words tasted stilted on my tongue, a rehearsed line echoing in a play I wished to exit. My father barely acknowledged my question, responding with a vague wave of his hand. That indifference cut deeper than any knife. It whispered the lie that my feelings did not matter. I felt the countless layers of my own childhood flash before me. The burden of being the emotional caretaker, the incessant need to put others' needs ahead of my own. Was I to be the perennial sufferer, forever spinning in circles, caught in the undertow of my family's unspoken grief? As I hovered on the edge of despair, a soft voice echoed within me, cutting through the din. The pain I inherited was not my identity, but the path to my liberation. It was as if Carl Jung himself were seated next to me, urging me to uncouple my worth from my family's suffering. I had come to realize in fragmented moments of clarity that my self-sacrifice would not heal my father's wounds, nor would it grant me the validation I so desperately craved. I remembered the countless family gatherings where I had felt like an observer in my own life, an unwilling sentinel to my family's emotional neglect. Each time I suppressed my emotions to comfort others, I was burying a part of myself, a lifeline I could no longer afford to disregard. As I looked again at my father's melancholy, something uncoiled. Within me, I understood that I could no longer be the child who bore guilt for being alive, for experiencing joy in a world tainted with sadness. It hit me suddenly. I didn't have to carry my father's pain as my own. This recognition was a bitter pill, but also the first step towards unshackling the chains that had bound me for so long. Silently, I vowed to confront this inherited burden. I needed to accept the parts of me that had miraculously survived, despite everything. Perhaps all this hurt was merely the first inkling of the strength I was beginning to discover. That day, surrounded by the echoes of my childhood, I felt a flicker of hope awaken. With each beat of my heart, I prepared to embark on an uncharted journey, a journey toward embracing the light buried beneath the layers of inherited shadows. It was time to break the cycle, to honor my truth, and set upon the path to my liberation. The moment of hope I felt was a fleeting ember, quickly, overshadowed by the shadows of my past that lurked just outside my consciousness, waiting to draw me back into their depths. Determined to unearth the roots of my pain, I closed my eyes and allowed memories to cascade over me, each one a glimpse into how my childhood had shaped my understanding of love and emotional connection. I was just 5 years old, seated in my room with my cherished teddy bear, the only confidant who wouldn't judge me. Clutching it tightly, tears streamed down my cheeks. My mother had just scolded me for crying over my friend moving away. "You're being silly. Nobody wants to hear your whining," she dismissed me, and the sting of her words echoed long after she had left. I learned in that moment that my feelings were burdensome. Vulnerability felt like weakness. It was the first lesson in a series that taught me to hide my sadness, resolutely sweeping it under the rug of family expectations. As the years rolled on, my beliefs solidified into an unyielding structure. Perfection is the price of love. The mantra played repeatedly in my head, always present during family gatherings filled with masked emotions. I felt the pressure to be perfect, to appease my mother's rigid standards. With each dismissed feeling, I learned that the world demanded my compliance over my sincerity. The joy I craved became unintentionally tangled in layers of guilt, and I buried my true self deeper underneath it all. In high school, I excelled academically, believing that each A I earned would earn my parents' love. I remember racing home with my report card full of A's, heart pounding in anticipation of praise. My father met my excitement with a weak smile that soon vanished, replaced by the weight of our family's looming financial troubles. "That's good, Sophia, but don't get too comfortable. You need to keep achieving," my mother warned, her scrutinizing voice cutting deep. In that moment, the pride I sought evaporated, leaving behind an echo of unfulfilled expectations, a reminder that I was always expected to do more to be worthy of love. Another figure shaped my childhood narrative: my brother, the perennial star. He was my parents' pride and joy, their golden child, constantly celebrated, while I melted into the background, suffocated by shadows of jealousy and inadequacy. Every compliment he received felt like a dagger, wrenching my heart just a little more. Their eyes sparkled when they looked at him, while mine were often overlooked. I felt like an unwanted guest in my own life, seeking attention that was always given elsewhere, and believing that love was contingent upon ranking, earned only through comparison. Yet within these memories lay a flicker of resilience, a child yearning for love, validation, and acknowledgement. What if I chose to honor her? What if I allowed the emotions I had silenced the same space I had given everyone else? The memories that once haunted me shifted into something formidable. They were not just vessels of pain. They were a testimony of my survival, reminders that I had navigated a landscape littered with challenges. Yet amidst these remembrances lay the toll of neglect and unmet needs, issues I had tried so hard to ignore. I felt the weight of my unexpressed grief pressing down, the inherited pain from a family that refused to acknowledge emotions. I quietly acknowledged, I don't have to carry this pain as my own. This realization, both terrifying and liberating, became my first genuine step towards healing. Instead of burying these emotions deeper, I could instead choose to confront and honor them. As I revisited these snapshots of my past, the chains binding me began to feel less oppressive. This journey was about more than just unpacking trauma. It was about reshaping the narrative that defined me. Each thread of every experience, painful or joyful, became an essential piece of the intricate fabric that was me. I began to realize that I didn't have to be defined by the shadows of my family's emotional neglect. I could embrace my authenticity, imperfections, struggles, and all. With every memory I confronted, I felt resilience grow within. I understood healing wouldn't be linear. It would be a winding path of ups and downs. I could allow myself to feel, to cry, to laugh, to rage, everything that made me human. I envisioned a different narrative where my feelings weren't a liability, but an asset, where imperfections didn't equate to unworthiness. While this journey promised to be fraught with challenges, I felt ready. I resolved to carve out a new identity. My younger self sparked a determination in me, not only to acknowledge my past, but to redefine it. Instead of simply enduring, I could thrive. I could learn to navigate the complexity of my emotions, allowing myself the permission to celebrate both the light and shadow. The path ahead was daunting but necessary. Healing was not about erasing my past. It was about weaving it into a new story, one that celebrated resilience, nurtured integrity, and illuminated my way forward. Gradually, the shadows transformed from chains into mere footprints on my journey, marking that while they part of my history, they would not define my future. With each step, I was preparing to step into the light, honoring the legacy of my story and weaving together the fragments into the whole of a beautiful, evolving identity. As my journey of self-discovery unfolded, an insatiable curiosity stirred within me, compelling me to delve deeper. It was during a quiet evening, pen poised above my journal, that I first came across Carl Jung's name. Previously mentioned by my therapist, his teachings beckoned me like a guiding light through the mists of my emotions. Diving into Jung's writings felt like opening a door to a long hidden room in my heart. His concept of the shadow emerged as a profound revelation. The shadow represents the parts of ourselves we suppress, our emotions, fears, and desires, those aspects we deem undesirable. I recognized that, throughout my life, I had tucked away feelings of sadness, anger, and frustration into the darkest corners of my psyche, believing they were unworthy of expression. Yet Jung illuminated a crucial truth. These suppressed aspects were essential to achieving wholeness. Every page I explored resonated with echoes from my past. Jung suggested that confronting the shadow could lead to transformation and individuation, the realization of the self. Suddenly, my perspective shifted. My painful memories of neglect were not simply burdens, but invitations to heal and grow. Perhaps I could treat my experiences as integral elements in a broader narrative, yearning to be acknowledged rather than forgotten. Questions blossomed in my mind as I pondered Jung's insights. Who would I be if I shed my carefully constructed mask? What lies beneath the facade of the good daughter and people pleaser? I recognized that I had spent too long trying to meet external expectations at the expense of my inner self. The prospect of addressing my shadow filled me with hope. It hinted at the possibility of self-acceptance and genuine joy. Another enlightening concept from Jung was the inner child, that innocent part of ourselves filled with wonder and untapped potential. I could almost visualize her, my younger self, brimming with dreams, yet cloaked in the shadows of neglect. Understanding that nurturing this inner child was essential propelled me forward. You are worthy of love, joy, and attention, I whispered to the photograph of my younger self as hope flickered in my heart. Emboldened by Jung's teachings, I began to journaling my emotions more freely. Each writing session became a nourishing dialogue, allowing me to give voice to the feelings I had long suppressed. Instead of hiding my hurt and anger, I welcomed them to the forefront, allowing space for healing. Each page filled with words brought layers of guilt unpeeling away, revealing the authentic person I was rediscovering. As I immersed myself in Jung's theories, deep insights began to surface. I began to view my emotional pain not merely as a burden, but as an opportunity for profound learning. It's okay to feel deeply, I reassured myself. That simple affirmation was transformative, a reminder to honor every facet of my experience. This echoed in my quiet moments as I embraced both the joys and sorrows I had once regarded as weaknesses. Each step along my journey required both courage and introspection, leading me to create a more authentic narrative. I learned to connect my reflections with compassion for my past, which allowed space for growth. I had spent far too long navigating silence, and now, with each written word, I reclaimed my voice, asserting my existence amid echoes of neglect. What began as a quest for knowledge transformed into an awakening. Through Jung's guidance, I discovered not just a path toward understanding, but a companion in my exploration, one whose wisdom illuminated my emotional landscape. This shift in perspective became the foundation of my healing journey, turning my pain into a powerful source of strength. With every realization gathered from Jung's work, I felt the path of healing open before me. I understood that my past, while filled with shadows, could now serve as a map, leading me to the light I longed to embrace. This journey would be marked not only by the pain of what I had endured, but also by the resilience I was beginning to embody. Jung had paved the way for self-exploration and acceptance. I embarked on this transformative odyssey with an open heart. The journey was far from over, but with each step, I found clarity and empowerment. I was ready to weave my newfound understanding into the fabric of my identity, showcasing not just survival, but vibrant self-expression. This path was mine to walk, not merely as a reclaimed figure of my past, but as a radiant force ready to step into the future. With the insights from Jung's teachings swirling in my mind, I felt an urgent need to dive deeper into the uncharted waters of my psyche. Acknowledging my shadows wasn't enough. I needed to confront them directly. Creating a safe, quiet space in my home, I prepared for a guided meditation designed to illuminate the dark corners of my mind. As I settled into my favorite armchair, I closed my eyes and took several deep breaths, letting the tension of the day ebb away. Gradually, I envisioned a vast landscape, rich with light and shadow, where my fears and emotions danced together. I steeled myself for what I might find in this inner exploration. As I slipped into a deeper state of relaxation, the shadows around me began to take shape. They gathered like mist, swirling and pulsing with memories I had long buried. A figure emerged, a representation of my shadow. My heart raced as I approached it. "What do you carry?" I asked, my voice shaking. The figure responded not with words but through flashes of vivid memories, anger, sadness, shame, and neglect, all rising to the surface. "I'm here to listen," I assured, feeling a profound urge to understand instead of flee. The first figure to step forward was my fierce yet repressed anger, the righteous anger that had simmered for years, never quite acknowledged. "Where were you when I needed you?" it demanded. At that moment, I recognized the innocent child within. She had felt unseen and neglected, carrying the weight of unexpressed rage. Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, "I thought if I stayed quiet, I could keep the peace." Apologizing to this younger version of myself felt necessary and long overdue. I assured her that her feelings were valid, that she deserved recognition and space to express her hurt. In this confrontation, I realized that my anger was not the enemy. It was a legitimate response to years of neglect. It marked the beginning of my acceptance and healing. Then, another shadow emerged, enveloped in the weight of shame, a fierce specter whispering that I was never enough. "You do not define my worth," I declared firmly. This confrontation marked a shift in my perception. By accepting my shame instead of pushing it away, I began to unravel the complex beliefs that had been rooted in my childhood experiences. Slowly, I learned that my worth was inherent, not dependent on external validation. As my meditation unfolded, yet another figure appeared, my people-pleaser complex. I recognized how this aspect of myself had developed in response to the external expectations I had faced. "Why did you make me this way?" it challenged. Realizing that my desire to placate others stemmed from fear rather than authenticity made me question why I had prioritized others' needs over my own. "It's okay to say no," I replied softly. I understood that my worth wasn't determined by my ability to meet others' expectations. This series of confrontations became a profound journey, an inner exploration fueled by the vital promise of self-acceptance. Each revelation peeled away layers of guilt and fear, allowing room for understanding and compassion. Each shadow I faced became a teacher, guiding me through the complexities of my emotional landscape. Emboldened by Jung's principles, I began to embrace the pain and joy that surfaced through my experiences. What does this pain teach me? Became a constant reflection in my journaling practice. I poured out emotions, fears, and realizations, crafting a narrative that eventually replaced shame and guilt with acknowledgement and grace. Through this cathartic process, I learned to reclaim my voice, an act that felt both powerful and liberating. I documented my wholeness, relaying my newfound insights in vivid detail. "It's all right to feel deeply," I reminded myself repeatedly. I understood my emotions were reliable compass points, guiding me through the labyrinth of my experiences. As the weeks passed, I started sharing my inner journey with trusted friends, each confession liberating me further. The act of voicing my truths made me feel lighter and more connected to others. I realized that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the gateway to deep connections and authenticity. Each story I shared, each truth I voiced, contributed to a tapestry that was both uniquely mine and universally relatable. The ongoing dialogue with my shadows taught me that healing is not linear. It is a fluid journey that ebbs and flows. I recognized that each encounter with my complex emotions brought me closer to my authentic self. I became adept at navigating difficult feelings, learning that it was not about erasing them, but rather integrating them into the whole of who I am. With each introspective dive and every written word, I found strength and resilience blossoming within me. the complexities and shadows began to interweave with the light of my emerging identity. I was no longer defined by my past struggles. I was now a participant in my own journey of healing, using my experiences to forge a vibrant path forward. The culmination of these practices led to a profound realization. My past, with all its pain and secrets, was not a weight to carry, but a foundation upon which I could build a new narrative. My shadow could serve as a launching pad, propelling me into a future where I could honor my true self while nurturing my inner child. As I prepared for this new chapter, I embraced the notion that I could weave the lessons learned from confronting my shadows into the very fabric of my identity. Healing was an invitation to acknowledge both my strengths and my vulnerabilities, cultivating a rich, authentic existence. With Jung's teachings as my guide and my shadows as allies, I emerged ready to face the world, not just as a survivor of my past, but as a radiant force stepping boldly into my future. Each reflection, confrontation, and realization spun the threads of my journey, culminating in a vibrant tapestry of self-acceptance. I recognized that the path forward would be filled with challenges, but my newfound strength equipped me to embrace them fully. With every step I took toward authenticity, I was reclaiming my story, honoring the legacy I wished to carry into the world. A legacy not just of pain, but of resilience, power, and transformative hope. As I stood at the brink of this new chapter, waves of trepidation and excitement surged through me. Having navigated the fog of self-doubt and repressed emotions, I was finally ignited by a powerful desire to embrace my authentic self, imperfections and all. This was no mere transition. It was a turning point, one where I declared myself ready to commit fully to the path of individuation that Jung so passionately described. Reflecting on my journey, I understood that authenticity wasn't just about expression. It was a commitment to align my actions with the essence of who I truly am, free from the limitations of self-doubt. Taking a deep breath, I leaned into the discomfort, knowing that true thriving meant more than enduring. It required a conscious decision to actively claim my voice and my space in the world. To honor this turning point, I dedicated myself to creating a list of intentions, principles that would guide me into this promising new phase of life. The first was straightforward yet immensely powerful. I will speak my truth. This commitment represented a vow to voice my needs, fears, and desires without the fear of reprisal or the need to please others. I had spent far too long as a passive spectator in my own narrative. It was time to step into the starring role. With each intention I penned, I felt myself grow stronger. I will set boundaries became a crucial element of my list. I realized that allowing others to dictate my emotional state was an injustice to myself. To prioritize my well-being and honor my growth required tangible boundaries that would protect me from external pressures. The next step was to share these intentions with my closest friends, those who had witnessed my journey through thick and thin. Inviting them over for an intimate dinner filled me with a whirlwind of nerves and anticipation. This gathering would be an opportunity to affirm my commitment to myself and to invite them along on this transformative journey. As I began to unveil my intentions, the vulnerability that washed over me felt both daunting and liberating. You all have played a vital role in my life, and I want to invite you to support me as I move forward, I said, my voice trembling slightly but steady. As I spoke about my desire to assert my truth and establish new boundaries, I felt a surge of empowerment ripple through the room. Their supportive nods and encouraging smiles became an anchor, grounding me in this moment of shared vulnerability. This dinner became a pivotal turning point in my healing journey. Through sharing, I felt lighter, almost as if a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying slipped away. My friends began to open up about their own struggles, mirroring my journey in different ways. It was a powerful reminder that we're all on a continuous path of growth and that acknowledging our pain fosters deeper connections. In the days that followed, I began to take concrete actions aligned with my intentions. Instead of spreading myself too thin, I learned to say no to social invitations that didn't resonate with me or serve my well-being. Each deliberate act of self-advocacy created a space of empowerment, allowing me time for self-care activities that truly nourished my spirit. One pivotal test of my commitment to authenticity came soon after. My mother called, eager to discuss an upcoming family gathering. In the past, these conversations had been fraught with tension and the potential for conflict, often leading to emotional upheaval as I navigated the expectation to conform to family roles. But this time felt different. I took a deep breath, grounding myself in the knowledge of my intentions, and replied, "Mom, I want to talk about how family gatherings make me feel." I shared my feelings of overwhelm and the pressure I often felt to fit into roles that didn't resonate with my true self. For the first time, instead of the defensiveness I anticipated, my mother responded with genuine concern. "I never realized how much you've been affected." "I'm sorry," she admitted. This unexpected acknowledgement marked a profound moment, a testament to my courage and a catalyst for change in my family dynamics. Encouraged by the positive result of that conversation, I began to engage more openly with my family, creating space for meaningful discussions in place of silence. Our interactions shifted as I embraced open communication. Instead of avoiding conflict, I learned to express my feelings with empathy and clarity, allowing deeper connections to flourish. Of course, old habits were hard to break, and I faced moments of difficulty when the familiar whispers of doubt tried to resurface. But I learned to approach these setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities for continuing growth. It's okay to falter, I reminded myself. Each lapse became a chance to reflect on my journey and recommit to my intentions. Throughout this period, the idea of integration emerged as my guiding principle. Moving toward authenticity meant embracing both my light and shadows, recognizing them as integral to my identity. Each part I integrated became a tool for navigating my life more fully, and these experiences were shaping me into a more authentic version of myself. As the weeks turned into months, I dedicated time to journaling my thoughts and emotions. Each entry peeled back layers of shame and confusion, revealing deeper truths that had previously eluded me. I began to redefine my narrative, transforming pivotal memories of neglect into reminders of my fortitude. They became lessons that illustrated my resilience and ability to rise from pain. I came to understand that healing is not a linear journey. It is a continuous ebb and flow, a process that embraces both light and darkness. Each step toward authenticity demanded compassion for both myself and my scars. I learned to treat my vulnerabilities as strengths, affirming my right to feel deeply and authentically. Preparing for my next chapter meant embracing the legacy I wished to carry forward, a legacy rooted in authenticity, connection, and compassion. I envisioned a future filled with the unwavering commitment to honor my spirit and nurture the flourishing growth of my true self. No longer would I be defined solely by my past. I was stepping into my power, becoming a radiant force ready to face life's challenges. With Jung's teachings as my North Star and the support of my friends to buoy me, my journey unfolded like a blossoming tapestry. Each intention manifested through daily encounters, reinforcing the truth of my story. I recognized that I had the power to redefine my legacy, not just as a tale of survival, but as a rich narrative filled with courage, hope, and the unyielding beauty of being unapologetically myself. With my intentions anchored firmly in my heart, I ventured into a transformative phase of my journey. Each day offered opportunities to embody authenticity, turning my hard-won insights into reality. I recognized that my path was not just about introspection. It was about integrating my growth into every action and interaction in my life. One balmy Saturday afternoon, I found myself in my favorite park, a space that had seen many of my contemplative moments. The gentle sounds of rustling leaves accompanied my thoughts, reminding me just how far I had come. As I walked, the certainty of my new intentions filled me with a sense of empowerment. I had begun responding differently in familial and social dynamics, voicing needs rather than retreating into silence. Each conversation felt monumental, a chance to assert my presence in my own life. Soon, a significant test arose. My brother invited me to a family dinner, a setting where I previously felt overshadowed by achievements and expectations. Memories of my muted voice flooded back, but this time I was determined to reclaim that space. I rehearsed my words, preparing to share my feelings about our family gatherings and my desire for more meaningful connections. As the dinner approached, the familiar flutter of anxiety stirred within me. Still, fortified by my intentions, I knew I had to speak up. Seated at the table, I took a deep breath as the familiar dynamics emerged, my parents praising my brother's accomplishments while I sat quietly. This time, however, I would not be silenced. "I'd like to share something," I began, heart racing but resolute. "I appreciate our family gatherings, but I often feel overwhelmed, as though there's a pressure to focus only on achievements. I would love to connect more with each other, too." An expectant silence filled the table as I spoke my truth. To my surprise, my mother responded with genuine concern. "I didn't realize you felt that way. Thank you for telling me." This simple acknowledgement opened the door to deeper conversation. In that moment, I realized that expressing my truth had created space for understanding, and empathy replaced the fear that had once defined our interactions. Encouraged by this breakthrough, I became braver in voicing my needs. I began asserting myself, leaning into authenticity as I spoke openly with my family and friends. The process of setting boundaries became central to my journey, crucial for maintaining my emotional well-being. Each small action reaffirmed my commitment and cultivated a firm foundation for my growth. Once I felt the momentum building, I decided to host a gathering of friends, a concept I once avoided due to anxiety about delightful expectations. Embracing authenticity, I viewed this gathering as an opportunity to foster connection among those I cared about. I envisioned an evening filled with laughter, storytelling, and a safe space for all of us to share our journeys. The event unfolded beautifully. Laughter filled the air as friends arrived with dishes to share. As we feasted, the conversations weaved effortlessly, revealing our collective experiences of vulnerability. I took the plunge, recounting my journey toward authenticity and inviting others to share their stories too. Watching my friends open up about their struggles and triumphs created a rich tapestry of connection, an affirmation that we were not alone in our experiences. The evening deepened my understanding of how vital community is to our growth. Sharing my story led to others reciprocating, creating a genuine bond steeped in empathy and support. In those moments, I felt like I was not only reclaiming my voice, but also fostering a space for communal healing, a powerful reminder that vulnerability is a gateway to connection. After the event, I felt a surge of inspiration pour into my heart. I was propelled to put pen to paper and write about my journey more extensively. I wanted to share insights about personal growth and the power of vulnerability. Each draft became a cathartic experience, enabling me to blend my reflections and hopes into a narrative that inspired not just myself, but others. Following the momentum of authentic expression, I decided to start a blog. Each post served as a tribute to my commitment, a platform where I could honor my experiences and encourage others to embrace their journeys. With every story shared, I affirmed that we all possess the strength to rise above our struggles. By translating my experiences into written words, I began to create a community centered around shared understanding and healing. Despite my bold steps into the world of sharing, I faced moments of vulnerability and doubt. Old habits occasionally surfaced, whispering temptations to retreat to silence or compliance. Yet, today, I approached those feelings with compassion. I reminded myself that it was okay to feel insecure at times, but essential to examine those fears without judgment. Reflecting on a particular day when doubts crept in, I acknowledged the familiar weight of anxiety in my chest. I chose to journal about it, asking myself what it would take to navigate those insecurities. Embracing those feelings became a way to reinforce my resilience, underscoring my journey and allowing me to affirm my right to feel deeply. The more I practiced sharing my vulnerabilities with the world, the more freedom I felt enveloping me. Old fears began to dissolve, replaced by a gradually widening perspective that introduced new possibilities. I learned that owning my truths was not a burden, but a source of strength. As I continued this journey, I discovered that these practices of authenticity and sharing were not just a series of actions, but core principles guiding my life moving forward. I embraced nurturing my emotional landscape and sought joy in activities that aligned with my spirit, moments filled with creative pursuits, nature exploration, and meaningful conversations. In cultivating this journey of freedom, I came to understand that authenticity is not a once achieved destination, but an ongoing practice woven into the fabric of everyday life. The act of being true to myself infused my day-to-day existence with a sense of purpose and fulfillment. With each transformative action, each conversation and event, I created a legacy that reflected both authenticity and connection. The tapestry of my story grew richer, interlacing threads of courage and hope that reinforced my sense of belonging in the world. As I embraced my journey, I became grounded in the belief that I am capable of crafting a future rich with joy and compassion. Now ready, I stepped gracefully into the next chapter of my life. My heart was light, my intentions clear. And with Jung's teachings to guide me, I faced each new challenge as a radiant being, empowered and unwavering in my pursuit of authenticity and love. This journey of freedom opened doors to new horizons, and I embraced every moment, ready to shape my destiny with the beauty of being unapologetically myself. As I embraced this new chapter of my life, I felt a warmth and clarity enveloping me. I was no longer merely surviving. I was thriving, releasing the weight of past burdens to allow room for my true self to emerge. With each step I took, I was reshaping my identity into something vibrant and promising. Having woven my experiences into the tapestry of my life, I understood that my journey was about more than just personal triumph. It was about creating a legacy, rooted in authenticity and connection. The lessons learned from integrating my shadows and embracing my light began to shape how I interacted with the world around me. My first act of this new phase was to engage more deeply with my community. I sought out opportunities to share my story and raise awareness about mental health, recognizing that my lived experiences had the power to inspire. I volunteered for local initiatives focusing on emotional well-being and hosted workshops on the importance of vulnerability. The ability to connect with others who shared similar struggles reaffirmed the bond we all have in our journeys of healing. One evening, during a community event, I shared my insights with an audience eager to listen. I spoke of my path to authenticity, how confronting my shadows transformed my life, and how vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. The resonance of my words allowed me to witness the power of shared experiences and our collective strength to rise beyond our circumstances. In these moments, I felt a deep sense of belonging. We exchanged stories that highlighted our shared humanity, navigating challenges, celebrating wins, and forging connections that reminded us we were never alone on this journey. Each story intertwining with mine created a beautiful fabric of resilience and hope. I also continued refining my writing practice, dedicated to documenting my experiences and the insights I gleaned along the way. Each blog post I published resonated with readers searching for encouragement and validation. I wanted to remind people that healing is not only possible, but that it can be an extraordinary journey full of discovery and growth. As I reflected on my past experiences through writing, I recognized the milestones that had shaped me. Pivotal moments of pain transformed into powerful reminders of my strength and ability to rise from adversity. The narrative I had previously viewed through a lens of shame now shimmered with resilience and insight. Each layer of my story deepened my understanding of what it meant to be human and the role I played in rewriting those narratives. With the support of my friends and the communities I engaged with, I felt empowered to continue embracing the idea of legacy, an ongoing commitment to authenticity and connection. My life was not just about my experiences. It was also about the impact I could have on others. I wanted to cultivate an environment where people felt safe to share their own truths. Now more than ever, I was ready to step into this next chapter. I was committed to a legacy of compassion and understanding, not only for myself, but for those who walked alongside me. I envisioned a future filled with vibrant relationships, self-expression, and continued growth. My heart was light, determined to build a life rooted in authenticity and empowerment. This journey had revealed the beauty of being unapologetically myself. I no longer felt confined by the roles that once defined me. As I stepped confidently toward my future, a testament to resilience and growth. I held on to the belief that I could light the way for others. Each day I would choose to embrace my experiences, knowing they were not just burdens to carry, but vital threads in the narrative I continued to weave. With every small step, I was creating a legacy that reflected my commitment to authenticity, connection, and the unyielding hope of transformation. I was ready for what lay ahead, equipped with the teachings of Jung and the lessons of my own journey. With each passing moment, I embraced the beauty of this new identity, confident that the legacy I crafted would resonate with the hearts of those who sought their own paths toward healing and authenticity. This was my story, and I was finally living it in the light.